I overheard my fiancée brag about trapping me for my money, so I played her audio at our engagement party and called it off. So I, a 31-year-old male, met Emily, a 29-year-old female, on a dating app a couple of years ago. Her profile was pretty impressive. She seemed smart, funny, and had this vibe of someone who had her life together. She was a marketing consultant and said she loved hiking, photography, and cooking. I wasn't sure if she was too good to be true, but I figured why not take a chance? Our first date was at this small Italian place I'd been meaning to try. Nothing too fancy, just a cozy spot with great food. When she walked in, I was honestly floored. She had this confident, easygoing way about her that instantly made me comfortable. We talked about everything, our jobs, our families, and random stuff like whether pineapple belongs on pizza. She's against it, for the record. She told me her dad was a school teacher and her mom ran a bakery. She grew up in a middle-class household, and it sounded like she was raised with good values. She even joked about how her parents didn't give handouts and how she learned to work for everything she wanted. That really stuck with me. She seemed like the type of person who didn't take shortcuts in life. In the beginning, her lifestyle matched her words. We'd go out to casual places, split bills now and then, and she never asked for anything expensive. She loved small surprises, like when I brought her flowers or we had a picnic in the park. It felt simple but good, like we were on the same page about what mattered. Then, about a year into dating, I decided to propose. I'd never been the overly romantic type, but I wanted to make it special for her. We went to this vineyard for a weekend getaway, and I popped the question while we were walking through the vineyards at sunset. She teared up and said yes, and for a while I thought I'd hit the jackpot. But looking back, I think that's when things started to change. After the proposal, Emily began to show a different side of herself. At first, it was subtle. She'd casually mention wanting to upgrade her wardrobe or talk about these dream vacations she'd been thinking about. I didn't mind. She was excited about our future, and I figured it was normal to dream big after getting engaged. But then it became more frequent. Like one day, she brought up her car, a perfectly good sedan she'd had for a couple of years. "Don't you think it's time we upgrade?" she said, scrolling through photos of luxury SUVs on her phone. I laughed and said, "What's wrong with your car? You love that thing." She shrugged and said, "Yeah, but now that we're engaged, it feels like the right time to upgrade, We should start thinking about what fits our new life." I didn't really know what to say. It felt like an odd jump, but I chalked it up to her being excited about the next chapter of our lives. Then there was the dress. One night, she came home with shopping bags from a high-end boutique. She twirled around, showing off this designer dress she'd bought for our engagement party. "It's stunning, right?" she asked. "It's beautiful," I said, genuinely meaning it, but isn't it a little pricey? She waved me off. "Jake, it's a special occasion. Besides, you only get engaged once, right?" I didn't argue. She was glowing, and I didn't want to ruin her moment. But these little things started adding up. She began talking about designer brands she wanted to own. And she'd bring up how some of her friends had leveled up after marriage, moving into bigger houses or getting luxury cars. It was like she was trying to turn our engagement into a ticket to a more glamorous life. And honestly, I didn't think much of it at first. I'd always been the type to work hard and enjoy the fruits of my labor, so if she wanted nice things, I figured I could provide that for her. But there were moments that felt off, like when we were out shopping, and she pointed out a diamond bracelet in a store window. "That would look so good on me," she said, half joking. "It's beautiful," I replied, thinking we were just window shopping. But then she turned to me and said, "Maybe for our 1-year anniversary or a wedding gift." She laughed afterward, but it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a test. Of course, I wanted her to be happy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about us anymore. It was about her vision of a perfect life. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Emily wasn't the same person I'd met 2 years ago. Back then, she'd been the girl who loved homemade pizza nights and thoughtful little surprises. Now, it felt like she was chasing something bigger, something shinier. I told myself it was just pre-wedding stress. People get caught up in the excitement, right? But deep down, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that this wasn't just a phase. What I didn't know was that her obsession with luxury was only the tip of the iceberg. The real truth about Emily was something I never could have prepared for. It all came crashing down one random Tuesday evening. I'd wrapped up work early that day because a meeting got canceled, so I decided to head home and surprise Emily with dinner. I stopped by her favorite Thai place to pick up takeout, thinking it would be a nice gesture since she'd mentioned being stressed about wedding plans. When I got home, the apartment was quiet except for the faint sound of Emily's voice coming from our bedroom. I figured she was on a call, so I didn't want to interrupt. As I set the food down on the kitchen counter, I heard my name come up in her conversation. At first, I thought she was talking about wedding stuff, but then I heard her laugh, a kind of laugh I didn't recognize. It wasn't her usual happy laugh, it was this smug, almost condescending one. I don't know why, but something made me pause before walking in. Her voice was clear, and the words stopped me cold. "Jake is such a rich sucker," she said, and I felt like the floor shifted under me. She said it like it was the funniest thing in the world. I froze, my stomach twisting, but I stayed where I was, just outside the door, listening. "You guys, I've totally trapped him," she continued, her tone dripping with arrogance. "He's so clueless. All I have to do is bat my eyelashes and act sweet, and he'll do whatever I want. The guy doesn't even question it." My heart started pounding. "I mean, don't get me wrong, he's nice and all," she added. "But let's be real, this isn't about love. It's about setting myself up for life. Jake's my golden ticket." The smugness in her voice was like a slap. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "And the best part," she said, laughing again, "once we're married, I'm quitting my job. Why would I keep working when he makes enough for both of us? I've already started dropping hints, and he's too soft to argue. He'll probably think it's his idea." Her friends were laughing along, chiming in with comments I couldn't quite make out, but I heard enough. "Honestly, he's not even my type," Emily said. "But who cares? He's rich, he's sweet, and he's easy to control. Once the ring's on, it's game over for him. He'll be paying for my spa days and designer bags while I stay home to focus on myself." I felt sick. My fiancée, the woman I thought I was building a future with, was openly mocking me, bragging about how she was using me. I should have walked away right then, but I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking, and I didn't know if it was from anger, sadness, or both. All I knew was that I needed to hear more. "I mean, you guys saw the ring, right?" she went on. "He spent a fortune on it. That's how you know he's all in. He's not going to back out now, and even if he tries, I'll make him feel so guilty he won't know what hit him." Her friends were cackling, egging her on. "You're a genius," one of them said. "I know," Emily replied, smug. "And the best part is, I don't even have to try that hard. Jake's so desperate to please me, he'll never figure it out." I couldn't take it anymore. I backed away from the door, my chest heaving. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. This wasn't the Emily I thought I knew. I went into the living room, sat down on the couch, and just stared at the floor. My hands were still shaking, and my stomach felt like it was tied in knots. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was. The woman I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with didn't love me. She loved what I could give her. After a few minutes, I realized I'd left the takeout in the kitchen. I got up and put it in the fridge, my movements robotic. I didn't even care about dinner anymore. All I could think about was Emily's voice in my head, calling me a rich sucker and laughing with her friends. I knew I couldn't confront her without proof. She'd deny it, spin it around, maybe even make me feel guilty for listening in. So I pulled out my phone and recorded a snippet of her conversation. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew I needed to have it. The rest of the evening was a blur. I went into our shared office and pretended to work, even though my mind was spiraling. At some point, Emily came out of the bedroom, all smiles, and asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I forced a smile and said, "Maybe later. I have some stuff to finish up." "Okay," she said, leaning down to kiss my cheek. "Love you." Those words felt hollow now. "Love you too," I replied automatically, even though I didn't mean it anymore. The woman I thought I loved didn't exist. Emily had shown me who she really was, and now it was only a matter of time before I acted on it. After that night, I couldn't unhear what Emily had said. Every interaction with her felt fake, like I was watching a performance. But I played along, trying to act like nothing had changed. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed to see how far she'd take this. The first thing that tipped me off was how much more obsessed she became with wedding planning. Don't get me wrong, I knew weddings were a big deal, and I wanted ours to be nice. But Emily's plans weren't just nice. They were extravagant, over the top, and honestly felt like something out of a celebrity gossip magazine. One evening, she sat me down at the kitchen table with a stack of bridal magazines and a notebook filled with ideas. "Okay," she said, grinning ear to ear. "I've narrowed down the venue options, and I think we should go with the St. Regis Ballroom." I glanced at the page she'd marked. The photos looked incredible, but I noticed the price tag immediately. "Emily, this is like 3 times what we talked about for the budget," I said, trying to sound calm. She waved me off like it wasn't a big deal. "Jake, it's our wedding. You only do this once. Don't you want it to be unforgettable?" "It's definitely unforgettable," I muttered under my breath, but she didn't hear me. She launched into a whole pitch about how the ballroom was the perfect choice. It had chandeliers imported from Italy, a grand staircase for a dramatic entrance, and enough space for 300 guests. "Think of the photos," she said, flipping through pages of decor ideas. This is the kind of wedding people talk about for years. I nodded, letting her ramble, but I couldn't help but feel annoyed. This wasn't about us anymore. This was about her putting on a show. The demands didn't stop there. She wanted imported flowers for the centerpieces. Apparently, roses from California weren't elegant enough. She insisted on a 10-tier cake from some famous bakery in New York, and when I suggested we go with something local, she scrunched up her nose like I'd suggested serving Twinkies. "Jake, we can't cut corners on the cake. Everyone remembers the cake," she said, as if it were a universal truth. "Do they, though?" I asked. "I can't remember a single cake from any wedding I've been to." She rolled her eyes. "That's because you're a guy. Trust me, people will notice." And then there was her dress. I knew wedding dresses were expensive, but Emily took it to a whole new level. She found a designer who specialized in custom gowns, and when she showed me the sketches, I'll admit it looked beautiful. But the price? $25,000. "Emily, are you serious?" I said when she told me. "This is the most important day of my life," she replied, like that was supposed to justify it. "And besides, it's not like we can't afford it." I bit my tongue, trying not to argue. She was spending my money like it was Monopoly cash. But the final straw came when she started planning the honeymoon. One night, she sat down next to me on the couch with her laptop. "I've been researching honeymoon destinations," she said, her voice dripping with excitement. "Okay," I said cautiously. "I found this incredible private villa in Bora Bora," she continued, turning the screen toward me. The photos were stunning. White sand beaches, turquoise water, the whole deal. "It's $30,000 for the week, but it's worth it." "Look at this place." I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and say she was joking. She didn't. "Emily, that's a lot," I said finally. "It's once in a lifetime," she replied. Like that explained everything. "And come on, Jake, you can afford it. This is our honeymoon. It's supposed to be special." Her tone was starting to grate on me. She said special like it meant spend as much money as possible. "Do we really need a private villa?" I asked. "We could still go somewhere amazing without blowing the budget." She sighed dramatically, like I was being unreasonable. "Jake, this is about memories. Don't you want to start our marriage with something unforgettable?" What I wanted was to start our marriage with someone who didn't see me as a walking ATM. But the honeymoon wasn't even the end of it. Emily started talking about upgrading her engagement ring. "I saw this gorgeous setting the other day," she said casually while scrolling through her phone. "It would make the diamond pop more." "The diamond's already huge," I said, trying not to sound irritated. She shrugged. "I just think it could look nicer, more refined." I was starting to lose my patience. The ring I gave her had cost a small fortune, and she had practically screamed with joy when I proposed. Now it wasn't good enough? And then there was the bachelorette party. Emily decided she wanted to take her friends to Las Vegas for a weekend. She booked a suite at a 5-star hotel and made dinner reservations at some of the most expensive restaurants in the city. When she showed me the itinerary, I couldn't hide my reaction. "Emily, this is going to cost thousands," I said, shaking my head. "So?" she replied. "It's my last weekend as a single woman. It's tradition. Who's paying for this?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. She gave me a look like I was being ridiculous. "You're the groom? It's kind of your job to cover this stuff." That's when I realized just how far she was willing to push things. She didn't see me as her partner. She saw me as a sponsor for her dream life. It wasn't just the wedding, the honeymoon, or the party. It was everything. Emily didn't ask for things. She expected them. And every time I tried to set a boundary, she found a way to make me feel like I was the one being unreasonable. By the time we got to the guest list, I was barely listening. She wanted to invite people she barely knew, distant relatives, old coworkers, friends of friends, just to fill up the ballroom. "It's all about the vibe," she said, scribbling names onto her list. "We need at least 200 people for it to feel right." "What happened to keeping it small and intimate?" I asked. "That was before I realized how amazing the ballroom is," she replied. At that point, I stopped arguing. There was no point. Emily was going to do whatever she wanted, and I was just supposed to foot the bill. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The barbecue was Emily's idea. She thought it would be the perfect way to bring everyone together to celebrate our engagement and talk about the wedding. "We'll invite our parents, your friends, my friends, just a small group," she said, flipping through her planner. I agreed, mostly because it gave me the opportunity I'd been waiting for. By this point, I was done pretending. I couldn't sit by and let her keep playing this game while she laughed behind my back. The barbecue wasn't going to be a celebration. It was going to be the moment I exposed her for who she really was. The day of the barbecue, Emily was in full-on hostess mode. She spent the morning barking orders at me while she flitted around the house. "Jake, can you make sure the patio chairs are lined up neatly?" And don't forget to stock the cooler with sparkling water and sodas. Oh, and did you pick up the extra skewers I asked for? I bit my tongue and went along with it. She was acting like we were hosting some kind of high-profile event instead of a casual backyard barbecue. She even wore a sundress that looked like it belonged on a fashion runway, complete with matching sandals and perfectly styled hair. As the guests started arriving, Emily's personality shifted into overdrive. She greeted everyone with a dazzling smile, hugged her friends like they hadn't seen each other in years, and kept up a steady stream of compliments and small talk. "Oh my gosh, Lisa, I love your dress. Where did you get it?" "You look amazing." It was almost impressive how effortlessly she played the part of the perfect fiancée. If I hadn't known better, I might have fallen for it too. I spent most of the evening grilling burgers and hot dogs, letting Emily soak up the attention. She was in her element, laughing and chatting with the guests like she was the star of her own reality show. At one point, she gathered her friends around to show them some photos of wedding dresses she'd saved on her phone. "This one is my favorite," she said, holding up a picture of a gown that probably cost more than my first car. "It's custom, of course. You can't get something like this off the rack." Her friends oohed and ahed, feeding her ego. "You're going to look like a princess," one of them said. "I know, right?" Emily replied, beaming. "Jake's been so great about letting me have exactly what I want. He knows how important this is to me." I clenched my jaw and flipped another burger, trying to keep my cool. Later, as we all sat down to eat, Emily's dad asked her about the guest list. "So, how many people are you inviting?" he asked, cutting into his steak. "Oh, we're aiming for around 250, Emily said casually, as if that wasn't an insane number for a wedding. Her dad raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot of people." Emily shrugged. "It's the St. Regis Ballroom, Dad. We have to fill the space." He looked at me. "Jake, how are you feeling about all this?" I forced a smile. "It's a big wedding, but Emily's very passionate about it." He nodded, clearly sensing something was off, but he didn't press the issue. As the night went on, Emily's confidence grew. She started talking about the honeymoon, dropping hints about Bora Bora and private villas. "It's going to be magical," she gushed. "Jake is making all my dreams come true." I could see the admiration in her parents' eyes. They genuinely believed their daughter had found her perfect partner. It almost made me feel guilty about what I was about to do. Almost. When dessert rolled around, I knew it was time. Everyone was seated around the fire pit, chatting and laughing. Emily was basking in the glow of the attention, holding court like a queen. I cleared my throat. "Hey, everyone," I said, standing up. "Before we get to dessert, I just wanted to say a few words." All eyes turned to me. Emily's smile widened, clearly expecting some romantic speech about how much I loved her. "I've been thinking a lot about our future," I began, my voice steady, and I realized there's something important I need to share with all of you. Emily tilted her head, a curious expression on her face. I pulled out my phone. "Recently, I overheard a conversation that changed the way I see things. I think it's only fair that you all hear it too." I pressed play. Emily's voice filled the air, mocking me as a rich sucker and bragging about how she was trapping me. Her words were crystal clear, how she didn't love me, how she planned to quit her job after the wedding, and how she was using me to fund her dream life. The laughter around the fire pit faded into stunned silence. Her dad's face turned red. "Emily, is this true?" he demanded, his voice sharp. "It's out of context," she stammered, her voice shaking. "Jake, how could you invade my privacy like that?" "Privacy?" I repeated, my voice calm but firm. "You were laughing about scamming me behind my back. I have every right to protect myself." Her mom covered her mouth, tears welling up in her eyes. "Emily, how could you?" she whispered. Emily's friends sat frozen, their expressions a mix of shock and embarrassment. "I trusted you," I continued, looking directly at Emily. "I thought we were building a future together, but clearly this was never about love for you. It was about money." Emily jumped up from her seat, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. "Jake, you're blowing this way out of proportion." "No, I'm not," I replied. "This engagement is over, and I'll be taking back the ring. You don't deserve it." She yanked the ring off her finger and threw it at me. "Fine, take your stupid ring." I caught it and slipped it into my pocket without a word. Emily looked around, her eyes darting from one person to the next, searching for someone to take her side, but no one did. "Jake, please," she said, her voice cracking. "We can fix this. I was just joking with my friends. I didn't mean any of it." I shook my head. "You meant every word. We're done." And with that, I walked away, leaving her to deal with the mess she'd created. After the barbecue, everything fell apart for Emily. The image she'd worked so hard to project, the doting fiancé, the golden daughter, was shattered in one evening. I didn't stay to watch the fallout, but word got back to me pretty quickly. The The first thing I heard was that her parents were furious. Emily's dad, who had always been quiet but firm, was apparently livid. "You've humiliated us," he told her, according to a mutual friend who was there. "What kind of person treats someone like that and laughs about it with your friends? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Her mom wasn't any softer. "We didn't raise you to be so manipulative," she said, crying. Emily, of course, tried to defend herself. "It was just a joke. Jake is overreacting," but no one was buying it. A couple of days later, I got a text from Mark, my best friend who had also been at the barbecue. "Dude, Emily's parents kicked her out," he wrote. I stared at the screen, surprised but not entirely shocked. "What happened?" I replied. "She stayed at their place after the barbecue," he wrote. "Apparently, she kept blaming you for everything, saying you were too controlling and that you blew the whole thing out of proportion. Her dad wasn't having it. He told her to pack her stuff and leave." I couldn't help but feel a little satisfied hearing that. It was about time someone held her accountable. Mark continued. "She's been calling everyone, trying to find a place to stay, but it sounds like most people are distancing themselves. No one wants to deal with her drama." And that was the thing about Emily. She'd spent so much time building this fake persona, but once people saw through it, there was nothing left. She'd alienated her closest friends by always making everything about her. Even her parents, who had supported her for years, were done with her entitlement. About a week after the barbecue, I got a text from one of Emily's friends, Lisa. I didn't know her well, but she'd always seemed nice enough. "Hey, Jake," she wrote. "I'm really sorry about what happened. I had no idea Emily was doing that to you. I wasn't sure how to respond, so I kept it short. Thanks, Lisa. It's been a lot to process, but I'm doing okay." She replied almost immediately. "I wanted you to know I've cut ties with her. After hearing that recording, I realized she's not the person I thought she was. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." It was nice to see someone taking a stand, but it also reminded me of how many people had been fooled by Emily's act. She had built her life around manipulating people, friends, family, even me. And now it was all crumbling. Then came the calls. Emily started blowing up my phone about a week after the barbecue. At first, I ignored her. What was there to say? But she didn't let up. She left voicemails, sent texts, and even tried messaging me on social media. "Jake, please call me," one voicemail said. "I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I love you. Don't throw everything away over one mistake." One mistake? The audacity of her acting like this was just some little misunderstanding made my blood boil. Another message came a few days later. "I'm sorry, okay? I was venting to my friends. Everyone does it. You didn't have to humiliate me in front of everyone. Let's just talk." The more she called, the more desperate she sounded. Her texts went from apologetic to angry to downright pitiful. "You ruined my life," one text read. "Do you know how many people are judging me because of you? I was joking, and you made it seem like I'm some monster. I hope you're happy." For someone who claimed to love me, she sure had a funny way of showing it. After about 2 weeks of nonstop calls and texts, I finally blocked her number. I didn't owe her any more of my time or energy. Then, about a month later, I got an email from one of Emily's old coworkers. "Hey, Jake," it began. "I don't know if you remember me, but I used to work with Emily. I just wanted to reach out and say I'm sorry for what happened. I've heard bits and pieces from mutual friends, and honestly, I'm not surprised. She was always difficult at work. I hope you're doing okay." That email stuck with me. It confirmed what I already knew. Emily had a pattern of using and discarding people when they no longer served her purpose. I'd just been her biggest target. The final straw came when she showed up at my office. It was a quiet afternoon, and I was catching up on emails when the receptionist buzzed my desk. "Jake, there's a woman here to see you," she said. "She says her name is Emily." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Tell her I'm not available," I said. A few minutes later, I heard a commotion in the lobby. Emily wasn't taking no for an answer. I got up and walked out to find her standing near the receptionist's desk, her face flushed and her eyes red. She'd clearly been crying. "Jake," she said, spotting me, "please, just hear me out." I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Emily? I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I love you. Please, let's work this out." I stared at her, trying to feel something, anger, sadness, pity, but all I felt was emptiness. "It's too late," I said finally. "You didn't just mess up, Emily. You showed me who you really are. I can't unhear the things you said, and I can't trust you anymore." She started crying harder. "Jake, I don't have anyone else. My parents won't talk to me. My friends won't answer my calls. I have nothing." "That's not my problem," I replied, my voice cold. "You made your choices, Emily. Now you're dealing with the consequences." She stared at me for a moment, her face crumpling, then turned and walked out, her sobs echoing in the quiet office. I didn't hear from her again after that, but through the grapevine, I learned that she was struggling to find a place to stay. Most of her friends had cut ties with her, and her parents were still refusing to take her back. She'd burned every bridge she had, and now she was on her own. It felt like poetic justice. Months passed, and life started to feel normal again. Well, as normal as it could after everything that had happened. But as much as I tried to move on, Emily's shadow lingered. Not because I missed her, I didn't, but because people kept bringing her up. She had left a mark on more lives than just mine, and not in a good way. One afternoon, I was grabbing coffee with Mark when he brought her up again. "You won't believe this," he said, leaning across the table. "What now?" I asked, already half laughing. Emily had become a running joke between us, a reminder of what not to look for in a partner. "She's on the hunt," he said. "For what, a new job?" He smirked. "Nope, a new rich guy." I raised an eyebrow. "Seriously?" "Dead serious," he replied. "Lisa told me she's been showing up at fancy bars and networking events, trying to meet someone with money. Apparently she's bragging about how she deserves a man who can provide for her." I shook my head, laughing. Some people never learn. "Yeah, well, good luck to whoever she traps next," Mark said, taking a sip of his coffee. I didn't think much more about it until a few weeks later when I got an unexpected message on social media. It was from a guy named Brandon, someone I didn't know. His profile picture showed him in a suit, standing in front of a shiny car, so I figured he was one of those business types who like to flaunt their success. The message was short and to the point. "Hey, Jake, I don't know you personally, but I've been seeing someone you might know, Emily. A friend of hers told me I should talk to you before things go any further. Can we chat?" I stared at the message for a long moment, debating whether to reply. Part of me wanted to ignore it and move on with my life, but another part of me felt like this guy deserved to know what he was getting into. "Sure," I finally replied. "What do you want to know?" Brandon didn't waste time. He called me that evening, and I could tell right away that he was uneasy. "Thanks for taking the time to talk," he said. "I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I've been seeing Emily for a few weeks now, and some things aren't adding up." "Like what?" I asked, even though I could guess. "She's been vague about her past," he said carefully, "and one of her friends mentioned something about your engagement ending because of some issues. I just wanted to get your side of the story." I took a deep breath, then told him everything. I didn't sugarcoat it. By the time I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Wow," Brandon finally said. "That's a lot." "Yeah," I said. "Look, I'm not telling you this to ruin things for you, but if she's acting like she's changed, you should know what you're getting into." He sighed. "No, I appreciate it. Honestly, some of the things you said line up with stuff I've noticed. Like, she's already started talking about how she wants to settle down and not have to work as much. She even hinted at how she values stability and wants a partner who can take care of her." I wasn't surprised. "Sounds like her," I said. Brandon thanked me for being honest, and we ended the call. I figured that was the last I'd hear about it, but a couple of weeks later, I got another message from him. "You were right. I ended things with Emily. Thanks for saving me the trouble." The final piece of the puzzle came a few weeks later when I got a call from Lisa. I hadn't talked to her since the barbecue, so I was surprised to see her name pop up on my phone. "Hey, Lisa, what's up?" I said. "Hey, Jake, I thought you'd want to know. Emily's leaving town," she said. I blinked. "Seriously?" "Yeah," she replied. "She told one of her old coworkers that she's moving to a new city to start fresh. Apparently, things haven't been going well for her here." I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. Emily had burned so many bridges that there was nothing left for her here. Moving away was probably her only option. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "No problem," Lisa replied. "I just thought you'd appreciate the closure." Well, karma had done its job, and that's the story. Looking back, I'm glad things happened the way they did. It sucked at the time, but it taught me a lot about what to look for in a partner and what to avoid. I'm not in a rush to jump into another relationship, but when I do, I'll be looking for someone who values me for who I am, not what I can give them. And as for Emily, wherever she ends up, I hope she figures it out. But if not, that's not my problem anymore.